Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Brighton Town Board. It's October 11th, 2023. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor. I'm pleased to see all of you here in the room, and I know there are more of you watching us remotely, and we appreciate all of you being here. We'll begin the open forum portion of our meeting in just a little bit. The open forum portion of the meeting is the opportunity for members of the community to share their comments, their questions with the town board. You can do that whether you're here in person or watching us remotely, although I will say that if you are participating in the meeting remotely, you'll have to do so on Zoom in order to be able to engage with us during the open forum, or for that matter, during the two public hearings that we have tonight. We've been Zooming for a long time now, but if you need help on how to do that, go to the town's website and there are instructions on how to get into the Zoom meeting. We continue to make our meetings accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community with our ASL interpreters. Tonight we have Jim and Heather. So Jim, welcome for the first time. Heather, thank you very much for doing this so often. As a reminder, the agenda for tonight's meeting is available on the table in the rear of the room, but it's also available on the town's webpage, www.townofbrighton.org. And that has not only the resolutions we'll be considering this evening, the agenda, but also the supporting material that goes into our decision making. So I would ask, if you're able, to please rise and join in the pledge. I'll ask Councilmember DePonzio to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jason. During the last week, we've witnessed terrorism, inhumanity at a level that is simply beyond comprehension. So I would ask that we observe a moment of silence in memory of the victims of terror in Israel. Thank you. We have two proclamations this evening. And for our first proclamation, which recognizes Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I will ask our good friends, our wonderful friends from the YWCA to join me up here at the podium. As we all know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Domestic violence knows no boundaries. It occurs with alarming frequency in city, suburban, rural areas. Both men and women can and do suffer the impact of domestic violence. And because anyone can be impacted, so too must we all take action to prevent domestic violence and to support those whose mission it is to end domestic violence. And in the meantime, their mission is as well to provide support and services to survivors of domestic violence. Tonight, in recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we also honor the YWCA of Rochester and Monroe County for the work that they do to house and support those whose lives have been uprooted by domestic violence. I'm pleased that Dr. Myra Henry, President and CEO of the YWCA, is with us tonight, along with Aisha and Gant, who is the director of their domestic violence shelter programs. Are here to receive the proclamation tonight. I will read the proclamation, and then we will have presentation from the Y. Whereas domestic violence can destroy the homes, childhoods, and freedom of an estimated 13 million people per year. Nearly 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience severe physical violence by an intimate partner during their lifetime. Whereas the YWCA of Rochester and Monroe County was founded in 1883 and for 140 years has stood by women to help them through crises, serving over 800 women and children annually through their housing program alone. And whereas the YWCA offers a holistic approach to healing by addressing the emotional, financial, and legal needs of residents, while dedicated staff work with local organizations and lawyers to provide guidance on restraining orders, child custody matters, and housing assistance, among other services. And whereas preventing domestic violence requires the collective voice and power of individuals, families, institutions, and systems. And whereas together we must resolve to have zero tolerance for acts of domestic violence. And we must reaffirm our commitment to empowering survivors and ending the deeply destructive abuse that reverberates across generations. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Brighton Town Supervisor William W. Maley, and the members of our Town Council do hereby declare October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the town of Brighton. We extend our sincere gratitude to all who are providing support, shelter, and hope to survivors of domestic violence. And this proclamation is signed today, this 11th day of October, 2023, and I'm very pleased to present it to Dr. Myra Henry. The floor is yours.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is truly an honor, and I stand here with my colleague Aisha Gant, who is the Director and Program Supervisor for our Domestic Services programs, and on behalf of my colleagues at the YWCA of Rochester and Monroe County. Last week we had our 17th annual Empowering Women's Luncheon, where we celebrated 140 years of serving women and their families in the Rochester community. And part of that great work, which started a very long time ago, is providing shelter and safety for women and individuals who are escaping domestic violence situations. And that covering sometimes looks like repositioning them within the community into safe houses, working with local landlords, providing food, shelter, clothing, just sometimes psychological safety for those that are escaping domestic violence. Of course, none of this would be possible without our supporters, our donors, our friends, many of you who are either in this room or watching virtually. It is that strong support that keeps us going, that has kept us going for 140 years, and we are, unfortunately, we're living in a time where these sorts of social ills probably won't go away, but we work every day through our mission to eliminate racism and empower women to hope one day we can live in a world where domestic violence does not exist. Thank you again. Thank you.
So much.
I had the privilege of being at that luncheon. I know Councilmember Wilt was there, Assistant to the Supervisor Bridget Monroe was there. There were inspiring words, inspiring people, and a room full of people who I think all joined together in wishing that we could get you out of a job, but in the meantime, standing in solidarity to support the work that you do and the survivors of domestic violence in October and throughout the year. Our second proclamation tonight is the designation, actually issued this past Monday, of Indigenous People Day in the town of Brighton. I got up before dawn that morning to attend an Indigenous sunrise ceremony at Cobb's Hill, again, as did Councilmember Wilt. And it was fitting also that just the Tuesday before that, the town of Brighton and the town IDEA board, our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board, held the first of a series of our Tuesday town talks. And the topic of that discussion was the originals, navigating the nation as natives. And it was a very interesting program hosted by SUNY Empire State University on Westfall Road in Brighton. It was an opportunity to celebrate Indigenous culture, but also to combat what is all too often the invisibility of Indigenous people in society. We do acknowledge that we are on the land of the Indigenous people. We owe a great debt of gratitude to them. We honor and study their culture. We deeply respect their natives, their elders rather, both past and present. And we do well to learn from those elders the study, the culture, the history of the Onondaga, who lived in this town long before we did. Our proclamation reads as follows: whereas for centuries, Indigenous peoples were forcibly removed from ancestral lands, murdered, displaced, assimilated, and banned from worshiping or from performing sacred ceremonies. Whereas the town of Brighton recognizes that long before the formation of Brighton, Indigenous peoples of the Haudenosaunee Confederation were residents and stewards of the land on which we live. And whereas the Seneca or Onondaga Nation were known as the keepers of the Western Gate among the members of the Haudenosaunee, guarding the western areas of the Confederation from outsiders. And whereas the community we now know as Brighton was traversed by the Onondaga, and one of Brighton's best-known landmarks, the Council Rock, was the site of Onondaga councils and stood along the trail leading from Canandaigua Lake to what is now known as Rochester. And whereas we recognize the importance of the Onondaga to our history, and in keeping with our commitment to history, to diversity, we honor the role that they played and the contributions that they made to this region, along with the other members of the Haudenosaunee Confederation. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Brighton Town Supervisor William W. Maley, and the members of the Town Council do hereby celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, October 9th, 2023 in the town of Brighton, and encourage all residents of Brighton to respect and honor the history of our first residents and to learn more about their heritage and their culture. And here is that proclamation, which we will be displaying out in the lobby. We will now begin the open forum, and thank you again so much for being here tonight. We will now begin our open forum, which we hold at the beginning of each town board meeting. The open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning any matter relating to the town, whether or not it's an item on our agenda this evening. If you're here in person and would like to speak during the open forum, simply raise your hand and we'll recognize you. If you are participating remotely, again, as I mentioned earlier, and you want to speak during the open forum, please join the meeting on Zoom if you're not already there. And you can use the raised hand function on Zoom. And if I see that, you'll be admitted into the meeting and have the opportunity to talk. I ask all speakers during the open forum, whether in person or remote, to please state your name and address, come up to the podium when you speak, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. I will give a 30-second warning before your time expires. We may not be able to answer the questions that you have, particularly if they relate to a matter that's not on our agenda this evening, but our goal here tonight and during the open forum at every town board meeting is to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts or your questions with the town board and for us to be able to listen to your words. So therefore, please direct your remarks to the town board and not to the room or to other speakers. Please refrain from personal attacks and from outbursts of any kind during the open forum, out of respect for the speakers and out of respect for the time of everybody here tonight. So with that, we'll begin the open forum. Is there anyone that would like to address the board in open forum? Aaron, come on up.
First, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so apologies for not shaking hands with anybody, but tonight's Sicilian demeanor is brought to you by illness, not by my normal disposition. Not in my notes, but I will say, in light of everything that's gone on in the past week overseas with the violence that we've seen. Yes, with the violence we've seen overseas, it's a real privilege to be able to do this in a forum where we can disagree with one another and still maybe argue, disagree, maybe passionately, but still be able to do so. My comments are here. I may cough in the middle. I'll try to stay to 3 minutes. Last week, several neighbors and I observed a fleet of moving vehicles in the bus loop at 1666 Winton Road, the former Brookside School property. Knowing the Montessori School had recently received a conditional use permit for a different location and having since moved their operations to that location within the town of Brighton, we found it curious to see desks, chairs, and office furniture being moved into the Idlewood-facing spaces. Upon inquiry, Town Planning Department staff responded indicating an existing yet different private daycare facility would be operating out of the space. It appears the Montessori School's conditional use permit, established in November of 22, its application 5P0222, was incorrectly extended to this use. This entire situation can be easily rectified through the town correctly requiring a conditional use permit for the proposed business tenant at this private business property. During the November 1st, 2022 special planning board meeting, the landlord was asked by the town's lawyer if the conditional use permit was to be used by anyone other than the Montessori School. The town's lawyer also noted the name on the application itself, specifying the Montessori School. Further, the landlord accepted the decision to be the town's, acknowledging the town's process for a future conditional use permit. Both the potential tenant and the neighboring property owners and residents deserve to have a conversation on this topic on the record. That pathway is a conditional use permit hearing and associated process. This allows for any comments, concerns, challenges, and supports to be placed into the public record, as well as providing the same opportunity for awareness and concerns, both by the neighbors and the potential future tenants. As the town already required this process before the landlord's purchase of the property, this represents no greater a burden than it did during the first approach by the landlord and the former tenant. Nor is there a justification to deny this established process. There are additional questions regarding other tenants at 1666 Winton Road. These include which current tenants require conditional use permits and which may be exempt from such a decision on private property. These questions include publicly accessible space as a result of the town's recreation department leasing space in this formerly public facility. We trust you will take prompt action to inform the landlord of the need for a conditional use permit prior to the potential tenant's initial business operations. Thank you for your time and your dedication to transparent, accessible town government.
Thank you. And Aaron, if you'd like to submit that to the town clerk, you can. You don't have to, but you certainly can.
To you, is that more appropriate?
Sure.
Happily will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone? Yes, sir. Come on up.
1 page, 3 minutes. My name is Seth Holmes, and I live at 182 Idlewood Road. So I also wish to comment on the changes happening at the former Brookside School at 1666 South Winton. To start with, I want to say that I'm fine with Torah Loving Care, the new tenant, moving into the space, provided they follow the appropriate procedures, as Aaron has previously mentioned. As has been mentioned to this board and to the planning board before, the Evans Farm neighborhood was built in the 1950s without sidewalks, still don't have any, and the adjacent Brookside School was serviced by pedestrians and school buses. Our neighborhood was not designed for individual cars coming and going, dropping off children at that school. When the Montessori School first applied for their conditional use permit, more than 170 Evans Farm residents signed a petition requesting that the Montessori School use the South Winton Road entrance to the property and not use the Idlewood Road entrance through our neighborhood. Though that request was not fully incorporated into the conditional use permit, the conditions did include a student maximum and a sign stating vehicular traffic restricted to Montessori School authorized staff, parents, and visitors only. All others use South Winton Road entrance. As has been mentioned, when Rick DeStefano was asked about the moving vans last week, he indicated that Torah Loving Care would be functioning under the same conditional use permit issued last November, and I quote, "There was no condition requiring a new conditional use permit application for a different tenant operating a daycare for the same or lesser number of students." I take great issue with this comment from Rick DeStefano, given that there was a great deal of discussion at the November 1st, 2022 meeting about the transferability of the Montessori conditional use permit. Planning board members discussed transferability with the town's attorney, who indicated that the conditional use permit was not transferable. I would imagine that the planning board members voted using that particular information at that date. What is not clear is why the planning board is now indicating that it is transferable. Is it standard practice that the conditional use permits are transferable? It is not clear. Either way, it is not clear, and I worry that the planning board and its members are voting without understanding the entire process. Given the discussion that happened in the November 1st meeting, it would appear to me that the current occupancy is out of compliance with the original conditional use permit. It's not the Montessori School. Though this may be too little too late, I would hope that a retroactive meeting could occur to correct this oversight. If not, I would hope the town would investigate the operations and procedures of the planning board to help correct future misunderstandings and errors. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, if you would like to submit those comments in writing to the town clerk, you're free to do so.
If you want to email it, that'd be easy.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board during the open forum this evening? I don't see anyone on our Zoom broadcast, so.
We have no one further. Bill, I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeBonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Tonight, we have 3 public hearings, all of which relate directly or indirectly to the town's budget for 2024. The first 2 hearings, the first relates to the special district budgets, charges, and assessment rolls, and the second relates to the town's operating and capital improvement budget. Now, I recognize that there's a lot of overlap between those 2 matters. We're really dealing with the town's overall budget. So First, it's important to know no action is going to be taken on the budget this evening or on those assessment rolls. As we have done for many, many years, although state law only requires one public hearing on the town budget before it's considered for approval by the board, we have always held 2 public hearings of the town board, along with many, many other open meetings during the process, whether it's the budget workshops where departments submit their budget requests, finance committee meetings where both the capital improvement plan and the budget are considered. All of those meetings are public meetings. And of course, these 2 budget hearings where public input can formally be received on the record. The second public hearing will be on October 25th, and I expect that after that meeting, action will be taken to approve the budget. Now, the third public hearing tonight is to consider a local law allowing the town to adopt a budget that includes a tax levy increase greater than the amount allowed for Brighton under the state tax cap. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that third public hearing. At the last town board meeting, Earl Johnson, our finance director, made a very detailed budget presentation. A copy of the budget itself and the capital improvement plan that relates to the budget is available online on the town's website. Again, that's www.townofbrighton.org. Also, the presentation that our finance director made at the last meeting is also available for viewing on the town's website, on our YouTube channel as part of that last meeting. So we welcome community participation. As I mentioned earlier, you can participate in the public hearing either in person or remotely on our Zoom meeting, and instructions for accessing the Zoom meeting are available on the town's webpage. So we'll now start with that first public hearing concerning special district charges, the assessment rolls, and the budgets for those special districts. And again, as I mentioned, these first two public hearings are very much interconnected. If you would like, well, first, let me ask the town clerk, has the necessary legal notice been given?
Yes, Supervisor, notice for all 3 of these hearings was in the September 25th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. And I believe also the notice concerning the special districts.
Went with the message board here at Town Hall, as well as the town the mailing that went out to all the residents.
Right, in compliance with the State Court of Appeals decision interpreting state law on that matter. So legal notice having been given, I declare this public hearing on the 2024 special district budgets, charges, and assessment rolls to be open. Is there anybody that would like to address the board, either in person or remotely, on this budget assessment roll, special district budget, and charges public hearing? Hearing none, again, as mentioned, the full presentation was made at our last meeting. We will be holding a second hearing on October 25th here at 7 p.m. But since there's no one here to address the board on this public hearing, unless staff would like to say anything, then I declare. Oh.
Just on the resolution and local law for overriding the tax cap.
Why don't we get to that when we get to that third public hearing? Probably makes sense. Unless you want, okay. Then in that case, I declare the first public hearing on the special district budgets, charges, and assessment rolls to be closed, and again, we will hold a second hearing on the 25th. The second public hearing tonight is a hearing on the preliminary town operating and capital improvement budget itself. As I mentioned before, don't worry about whether your comments were appropriate for the first hearing or the second hearing. If you're here or watching us to comment on the budget, your comments are welcome on the record for this first public hearing on the 2024 budget. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given on this public hearing?
Yes, Supervisor, this was also in the September 25th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. Legal notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. Again, I would note that the Finance Director made a presentation on the budget. That presentation is available online, and the budget itself, including our capital improvement plan for 2024 through 2026, which was previously approved by the town board, is also available on the town's webpage. Is there anyone either here in person or viewing us remotely that would like to comment on tonight's public hearing on the 2024 town operating and capital improvement budget? Seeing and hearing none, is there any staff comment? Again, we will hold a second public hearing on the town operating and capital improvement budget at our October 25th meeting, 7 p.m. right here in this room, also remotely. But with no comments, I declare this public hearing on that budget to be closed. Now, finally, the third public hearing tonight is to consider a local law that would permit the town board to approve a budget that would include a tax levy increase in excess of the applicable tax cap for the town of Brighton. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given for that public hearing?
Yes, Supervisor, the notice was in the September 25th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. Just a couple of words, and then maybe the town attorney has additional comment. I do want to note that although at this point the tentative budget includes a proposed tax levy increase of about 3.8%, you hear a lot of talk about a 2% tax cap. Yes, 2% is part of the formula under which a tax cap is determined for each municipality. This year, the tax cap formula as applied to the town of Brighton is approximately 1.51%. So that would be the maximum increase permitted without going over the tax cap for our tax levy. Of course, we've all been hearing and seeing in our own wallets and our own households inflation at rates significantly in excess of that. I'm very confident that through the process, we have looked very closely at the budget. We have looked at the annual sort of weighting that we do, recognizing our desire to maintain a high level of services and infrastructure that our community has every right to expect, while also doing that in a fiscally responsible way. The budget you have before us does involve a tax rate increase greater than that tax cap. And although amendments may be made to the budget following our next public hearing, it seems very possible that the final tax levy under that budget will exceed the 1.51% increase permitted under the tax cap for the town of Brighton. So it's prudent tonight for us to consider, and I would recommend, taking action to approve this local law. Adoption of that local law does not require us to exceed the tax cap. It does permit us to do so if, in the final analysis, the board determines that a budget with a tax levy increase of greater than 1.51% is appropriate. Ken, did you want to?
No, you made the record that I was going to make pretty
Oh, good.
much, so thank you.
All right, then the budget, hearing on this proposed local law has been declared to be open. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on this matter, either in person or remotely? No one having done so, I declare this public hearing on the local law to be closed. And I will ask Councilmember DePonzio for a motion to take action on that local law.
With respect to the local law to allow the town to adopt a budget commencing January 1, 2024 that may exceed the tax cap, I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Thank you. Communications, tonight we have one item of communication. One of those important inputs that we get into our budget process every year. Well, let me just ask first for a motion. Chris, can I have a motion to receive and file the communication?
Bill, I move that we receive and file the communications, being the one that we have.
Second.
Thank you, Rob. I was talking about the process that we go through. One of the inputs we get every year in reviewing the budget, thank you, Holly, for working tonight, is from our Town Sustainability Oversight Committee, which is a committee of people with particular skills and interests relating to sustainability, which we know is one of our core policy drivers for the work we do as a town government. This correspondence, which is dated October 6th, is input from the town board on the capital improvement plan. Now, the capital improvement plan has, of course, already been approved by the town board, but we also know that that approval is simply the first step, and elements of that capital improvement plan appear in the preliminary 2024 operating and capital budget of the town, and some of those items may be also considered in future budgets in 25 and 26. But in this letter, the Sustainability Oversight Committee gives input to the town as we consider the budget and our capital investments. I'm pleased that at the number of items that they are supportive of and congratulating town staff on. They also focus on a number of items that are ongoing activities of the town in order to make Brighton the most sustainable town, not only in Monroe County, but in upstate New York. That's our goal. That's the work that we work to achieve with Everett's leadership, with the Sustainability Oversight's leadership, and really with the engagement of the community as a whole. So that's the communication we have. If you haven't had a chance to read it tonight, I encourage you to do so. And we have a motion to receive and file that letter. Are there any other comments on the SOC's communication? Hearing none, then Dan, please call the roll on that motion to receive and file.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. I do see that someone is asking to enter the waiting room. He has been advised that the public hearings have closed, but I'm going to admit that person into the meeting, and if he does wish to, and we've obviously finished both the open forum and the budget hearing, but with the pleasure of the board, if he would like to address the board during our open forum, I will give you the opportunity to do so. Mr. Sardania, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, if you'd like to address the board, we can't take your comments on the budget at this point because the hearing has closed, but if you have comments for the open forum, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed to do so. Or if you just want to watch us, you're welcome to do that too. Since he has not raised his hand, I'm going to continue with the agenda with our committee reports, starting with the Community Services Committee. Robin.
Thank you, Bill. The Community Services Committee has not met in the intervening timeframe since our last town board meeting, but I do have a few quick updates from our Parks and Recreation Department heads. From our Parks Department, as the growing season winds down, the Parks Department is still fully engaged with park maintenance. Athletic fields and parks were prepped for a couple of large lacrosse tournaments the town hosted. Parks teams have been working on a rebuild of the Corbett's Glen South End Trail for the past 2 weeks and finished that up today. All in all, the trail was widened by about 2 feet. Additional drainage was added in problematic areas, and about 50 truckloads of crusher stone was hauled in for a base, along with another 45 loads of stone dust for the top coat. The project encompassed approximately 595 feet of trail overall. Impressive amount. I've reviewed the photos from the project and it looks fabulous. I can't wait to get out there. With the wetter weather coming, this enhancement should make a huge difference in terms of the potential for the trail being submerged by water in the affected areas. I want to extend a huge thanks to the parks crews in problem-solving access issues to make the hauling more efficient and for remaining dedicated to the completion of the project in such a short time period. Then from our Recreation Department, fall program registration is underway for all members of the community. Full details and program offerings are available at the town website. That's www.townofbrighton.org/rec, R-E-C. If you have any questions, you can call the Recreation Department. That number is 585-784-5260, extension 0. Want to highlight some programming. Our instructional basketball and basketball leagues for youth have begun. You can join us this fall and get in on the basketball fun. Instructional basketball started on 10/7, and that will get you ready for our youth basketball league. You can check out full details online, again, at www.townofbrighton.org/rec, R-E-C. Our Brighton Farmers Market is ongoing at the Brighton High School parking lot on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. through November 26th. You can join us and explore all the wonders of the season at the market. We'd like to remind everyone that SNAP and EBT benefits are welcome at the Farmers Market. Highlighting program for the Brighton Senior Lunches Out and About. You can check out our monthly calendar and join us on a lunch out and about in the community. The locations change, but we always have a good time with friends enjoying food and sometimes lively entertainment. Full details are online. You can sign up for our monthly newsletter to stay up to date with all of the fun things happening with the Brighton seniors. Upcoming programs of interest at the Recreation Department include aqua yoga, wellness 360 balance, dog training, pickleball, fall food and fun, dance, horseback riding, home alone safety, and much more. Bill mentioned earlier that we've been conducting a series of Tuesday town talks at the Empire State University at 680 Westfall Road. Those talks began on October 3rd and continued last night, October 10th, and will be concluding October 17th. The time is 6 to 7:30 p.m. On October 3rd, we featured a discussion on the originals, Navigating the Nation as Natives. Last night, we featured programming on Shining the Light on the Blackout, featuring the experiences of African Americans. And on October 17th, we will have an in-depth discussion on anti-Semitism from past to present day. I want to thank the IDEA Board for facilitating these community forums, and of course our CDO, Miriam Moore, who conceived of the program and brought it to fruition. I also want to thank SUNY Empire State University, and especially Timothy Cosgrove, for being such gracious hosts of these important discussions. We want to remind everyone that there will be an annular or partial solar eclipse on Saturday, October 14th. The best viewing time will actually be during the homecoming parade between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m.
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting, with max coverage around 1:13 p.m. That partial solar eclipse will be viewable in Rochester, weather permitting. And we want to remind the community that eclipses should only be viewed by watching a projected image of the sun or by using special glasses with protective lenses certified for safe eclipse viewing. Never look at the sun without proper eye protection. Even a brief glance can cause permanent damage to your retinas. And we are in planning for our full solar eclipse activities. Please do save that date, Monday, April 8th, 2024. Those plans are in the works, and stay tuned for more detail. On Saturday, October 21st, we will be hosting our annual Trunk or Treat festivities. There is free registration encouraged for planning purposes. We ask that you do register online at www.townofbrighton.org/rec. In addition to that, we have our semi-annual electronics recycling and secure document shredding event upcoming at the Brighton Highway Department parking lot, 1941 Elmwood Avenue, on Sunday, October 22nd, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And finally, the last event I want to highlight is the Drug Enforcement Agency semi-annual pharmaceutical take-back event that will be at the Brighton Town Hall Public Safety Wing, 2300 Elmwood Avenue, on Saturday, October 28th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be next Wednesday, October 18th at 9:30 a.m. or immediately following our Finance and Administrative Services Committee meeting at the Brookside Recreation Center Multipurpose Room. Please do access the Recreation Department through the Winton Road entrance, and as always, members of the public are invited and encouraged to attend.
Thanks, Robin. And we will have a limited number of those eclipse glasses available at the homecoming parade on Saturday. Unfortunately, the weather forecast is really not very good at all. But we want to get folks pumped up because April 8th is going to be a doozy. That total solar eclipse is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience for most of us. So this annular will be nice. It's partial, so get your glasses now. But thanks for that report, Robin. We'll go to Finance. Jason.
Yes, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Wednesday, October 4th. Each of the items that were discussed in committee appear on tonight's agenda and will be voted on and discussed. Our next meeting will be next Wednesday, October 18th. We meet at 8:30 in the morning here in the main auditorium at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks, Jason. Public Safety. Chris.
Thanks, Bill. We had our Public Safety Committee meeting yesterday, and we had first a resident come in at open forum and asking that the police department take a look at speeding along Hemingway Drive as a cut-through street, and Chief Cathaldi and Deputy Chief Dessain reported on the monitoring that has been done there over the years. And again, encouraged residents not to take action on their own behalf, by themselves with respect to people going down the street, but leave that to the enforcement by the police department, which they do regularly, and will report on another street where they did monitoring as well. The Brighton Fire Department reported 1,932 calls year to date. There have been no significant fires or events for the fire department, other than the past chief, Ed Jeffers Jr., was recognized by both the department and the state of New York for his 50 years of service to the Brighton Fire Department. That's extraordinary. Thank you, Ed.
It is extraordinary, and I'm hoping we're going to extend an invitation to Ed to be further recognized here. If he's not able to come, we'll separately send our recognition. But it's the Jeffries family never ceases to amaze, and this is a great example.
Open house at station number 1 on East Avenue is scheduled for this Sunday, October 15th, 12 to 3 p.m. Hope to see everyone there. DPW has completed paving on Wendover, Monroe Parkway, and Elwell recently, and Georgian Court is scheduled to be completed by the end of October.
Yeah, quick update on that. We got moved up, so Friday will be some paving. at Georgian
Fantastic.
Court. Yeah, there was we got moved up by the pavers, so.
Good.
Good news.
That's great. Leaf collection begins on Monday, the 16th. And more details can be found on the town website, where you can go and see where your neighborhood is expected to be, see the appearance of the trucks and the loaders and so forth. Police department reported on calls for service as of the end of September, 38,108. They held a public safety day at the farmers market on the 24th of September, which was a success. Also, October 7th, they held a rabies control clinic and had 131 vaccines administered. October 14th is homecoming, this coming Saturday from 10 to 2, and the parade goes off at 12:45. Is that correct, Bill?
Correct.
And the drug take-back is scheduled for October 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Henrietta Fire District reported on calls in West Brighton totaling 707 calls year to date. No calls of note in West Brighton. The Henrietta Fire District is conducting their fire academy, and they expect graduation November 16th. Also, they're working on a state grant to allow for some upgrades at the West Henrietta Road station. Commissioner Garcia reported on an upcoming New York State Department of Transportation meeting for October 17th, where several items of interest to the town will be discussed, including a potential traffic signal at North Landing and Blossom Roads, and also discuss pedestrian and turn signals along Westfall, Winton, Monroe, Edgewood, Torrington, and Allens Creek. Also, with respect to crosswalks on town streets, Commissioner Garcia is working on a draft and is consulting with the town attorney with respect to various aspects of a town criteria for crosswalks. It appears that the majority of towns just simply incorporate the Monroe County crosswalk policy, but Commissioner Garcia has asked for input on how that may not be appropriate for the town of Brighton.
Whether it, I wouldn't.
To whatever extent.
Right.
Note that most municipalities have adopted the Monroe County policy, and we've also had discussions with the town of Penfield. Also, the Monroe County's almost completed the first set of intersections for regarding the RRFB crossings map, rectangular rapid flashing beacons. And as I said, the Monroe County is almost completed the first set of intersections and hope to have results available soon. And we have submitted 2 separate sets of intersections for review. Also, residents on Clink Road had requested some police investigation regarding a loud auto. First they asked about speeding on Clink Road, and monitoring there indicated that the vehicle speeds were consistent and compliant with the town speed limits. But with respect to the loud vehicle, they have called upon the owner to please address that, and they'll be continuing to monitor that. We also had a discussion on reactions and experience with the Elmwood Road Diet, and it's been very favorable. But Commissioner Garcia has indicated that there's that the county has asked for a punch list of concerns by the 12th, which would be tomorrow, correct? For items that we'd like to see addressed. Deputy Chief Desane suggested merge arrows at 2600 Elmwood, which is the Brighton Commons entrance, to clarify right-of-way there, and awareness of the lane merge, and the beginning of the dedicated bike lane. And also that we discussed that it appears that some diagonal barrier striping might be appropriate at the Lockdeville and Elmwood Avenue areas. And all that striping should be finished soon. Also, there was a brief discussion of visibility and safety for drivers, bicyclists, and pedestrians while attempting to turn onto Westfall from Brooklawn. And Commissioner Garcia is to review the town code and apply the clear view zone portion of the code to review any plantings and other visual impediments at that intersection. Also, he will discuss these concerns with Monroe County DOT, who is responsible for the roadway there, and see if there are any suggestions for other improvements to address these safety concerns. With all of that, we adjourn the meeting, and the next meeting will be Tuesday, November 14th at 0800 hours.
Thanks, Chris. Public Works, Christine.
Public Works met immediately following Public Safety yesterday morning. We were also visited during open forum by a resident. This resident had concerns about safety for crossing the Brighton Memorial Library parking lot, stepping over the curbed median, and suggested some changes to that median that would allow folks to pass through it instead of having to climb over grass. Commissioner Garcia is going to examine whether or not a temporary fix can be put in place to make traversing that easier, and whether that can or cannot be done. The requested improvements will be considered during the design and rehabilitation of the town hall facility in 2024. So make it easier to get to the library. Centerline striping on South Landing Road in Lockdeville was considered. The committee continued discussion, which carried over from the September meeting, considering the removal of the centerline striping from all portions of South Landing Road. And although the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices suggests that the traffic volume on South Landing would not typically make it a candidate for centerline striping, the New York State supplement to the MUTCD allows for short segments of centerline striping to control the position of traffic at specific locations, such as around curves, over hills, on approaches to grade crossings, at bridges, and on approaches to intersections. And further, many modern vehicles rely on striping to support advanced driver assistance systems, such as lane departure warnings. As such, the committee concluded that the centerline striping should be removed from South Landing Road in the section south of the I-490 bridge, except for the first 100 feet from the Linden Avenue intersection, so as to align traffic the next time that South Landing Road is paved. The northern portion of the roadway, which has pronounced horizontal curves, will remain as is, And similarly, the centerline striping will remain on Lockdeville Boulevard, which includes many horizontal curves in various directions to help align traffic along that roadway. The thinking about centerline striping studies are showing that sometimes it sends an unintended message to drivers that they can drive fast and furious, and that is not the case. They should drive cautiously and within the lines. 59 Hampshire Drive, the town board authorized demolition of the structure located at that address in the fall of 2022 due to unsafe conditions. And over the course of the past year, the owner has made repairs to the roof of the structure in order to secure it. And the owner indicated they would continue to move forward with full renovations of the structure. However, and as such, the town stopped the demolition process in good faith. However, since July of 2023, there has been no additional work on the structure or any indications from the owner that work to finish, to fully rehabilitate the structure will continue. So at this time, town staff is seeking guidance from the committee on how to proceed with the matter, and the committee does recommend that the board reinitiate the unsafe building demolition process for the property. And town staff will work on updating the inspection report for the property to begin that process again. Regarding the town hall evaluation, staff expect a revised report from InX Architecture which compares clean heating and cooling solutions being considered as part of the town hall renovation project. The staff and the committee requested the report to provide clarity on the cost and payback tables previously presented, and also to consider the various incentives which might be available to help the town mitigate capital costs associated with the installation of the systems. And we anticipate seeing that report.
Yeah, relatively soon. I reached out to NX and I'm waiting to hear back from them.
All right. We all know we're smart folks and can parse a lot of information, but this is beyond our ken, so we need it laid out as clearly as possible for the best possible decision soon. Regarding the town-wide speed limit reduction that was implemented in September, we had an update on the installation of signs throughout town. The speed reduction was implemented on all local roadways except for Group 2 roadways. And the Highway Department is now actively swapping out old 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs for new signs which reflect the lower limit, and they are approximately 85% complete as of yesterday, maybe a little further along today.
They are 100% complete with replacing the 30-mile-per-hour signs. There are some signs that might have to wait until next year in locations that don't have signs at all, and we have to order new materials for them.
Great, thank you very much. So all this to say, be mindful of 25 miles an hour on neighborhood streets throughout the town. No, you don't have to worry about changing how fast or slow you go. County highway project updates. The Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road and Winton Road preventive maintenance project is in the planning stage. The county is planning preventive maintenance on those roadways for 2024. The scope of the work for the project involves milling and paving the roadways, along with the installation of ADA improvements where necessary. Staff reached out to MCDOT to request the installation of complete streets improvements as part of the project, such as road diets, sidewalks, and bike lanes. Unfortunately, the timeline and the type of funding that was secured for the project limits what can be done. There's little flexibility in the county's ability to change the scope of the project. But staff will continue to work with MCDOT to determine if solutions can be found for implementation of some complete street components, specifically things like a 4-to-3 conversion on South Winton Road, the addition of bike lanes in that stretch, reducing speed limits, et cetera. We'll make progress on that. The Elmwood Avenue Road diet is nearing completion. You heard a bit of an update from Councilmember Werner, and folks hopefully are enjoying smoother travel and safer speeds. I anecdotally have seen many more bicyclists out there already, so it is working as intended. State project updates. The state plans for the bridges over on 590 still anticipated for construction in 2025-26. The Monroe Avenue corridor improvements from the City of Rochester line all the way through to the canal in Pittsford is still in the planning phase. The bids will open in 2026 and construction will be 2026-27. The town will be engaging with the state DOT. We've already begun, and at this point, the town will ensure that all project leaders have the studies and materials that have been produced in the past, reflecting the town's desired changes along Monroe Avenue. The West Henrietta Road corridor improvements, no changes there yet. Bid opening is still set for 2027-28 with construction in 28-29. I should back up to say that the project proposes to address pavement condition and drainage concerns, provide bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, and upgrade the traffic signal system on Route 15 between Jefferson Road and I-390. The committee did note that the project would provide an opportunity for the Monroe County Water Authority to address the existing water pressure issues along West Henrietta Road, which present a concern to our fire department on the west side of the roadway.
And the entire safety committee, that's
Yes.
Insufficient pressure there.
Yes, and kudos to the Henrietta Fire Department for having the capacity to work around that, but they shouldn't have to. So, in town project updates, the Multiversity Trail concept, the Rochester Multiversity concept connects the University of Rochester, the Rochester Institute of Technology, and the Monroe Community College by linking the Erie Canal Way Trail, the Lehigh Valley Trail, and the Genesee River Way Trail by multi-use walking and biking connections. And at this point, the town has hired Bergman Associates to lead the development of the concept. Town staff is working on compiling a list of stakeholders for the project who will serve as the plan's steering committee, and a project kickoff meeting is anticipated soon. And last, the town staff provided a demonstration of the OpenGov online permitting process that has recently been launched. It's a permitting platform for the Building and Planning Department that enables permit seekers to prepare their request online. With OpenGov, the Building and Planning Department aims to modernize the process by providing a cloud-based, user-friendly, efficient, and transparent process. There's more information about it in the newsletter that should have been in everyone's mailbox in the past week or so. And the link to find that will be easily found soon when town staff are able to update the website. Last, the committee reviewed the following trees for removal and replacement. The Tree Council previously reviewed them and concurred with the recommendation to remove and replace the following. At 82 Norman Road, a 22-inch Norway maple. At 129 Clovercrest Drive, a 30-inch sugar maple. At 320 Dunroven Lane, an 18-inch Norway maple. At 145 Sylvan Road, a 6-inch mountain ash, and at 212 Sylvan Road, a 24-inch Norway maple. The next meeting of the Public Works Committee is Tuesday, November 14th at 9 in the morning, or immediately following the Public Safety Committee if proceedings go long, which they never do.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, everybody. Next, we move on to new business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, earlier this evening, I reviewed claims totaling $370,156.27. Notable claims include to the Depository Trust Company, the amount of $15,525, representing payment for the 2015 B improvement bond for the Highway Department roof replacement. Also to Empire Fence Company, the amount of $1,890, representing payment for the repair of the pool fence at the town hall. Also to the Horticultural Association of Rochester, in the amount of $4,400, representing payment for various plantings. Also to Iroquois Rock Products / Dolomite Group, the amount of $59,790.06, representing payment for the asphalt to pave Antlers Drive, Greenwich Lane, and Hollywood Avenue. And finally, to Villager Construction in the amount of $4,396, representing payment for the milling of Wendover Road. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeBonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin, the next matter, please.
Certainly. The next matter seeks to adopt a revised sexual harassment policy in complaint form. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
These revisions largely reflect changes made in New York State. The model policy, the model sexual harassment policy promulgated by the state of New York. The town of Brighton has long been, wanted to stay on top of these policies to make sure that they effectively protect not only our employees, but everyone who comes here as it relates to potential sexual harassment. We want to make sure this policy now reflects these upgraded state revisions, and these changes will do that. Ken, anything more you want to add?
Yes, thank you, Supervisor. So during your lovely committee reports, I've been typing away furiously and emailing all of you with a revised resolution and a revised policy. So you should have it, and I've sent it to the town clerk as well. The revised resolution simply adds that the policy, the new policy and the new form, complaint form, is to be subject to review and approval by the town attorney. In reviewing the policy and form a second time this evening, I did find some typos and some corrections that needed to be made, so I just want to make sure that those get in place. But after I revised the resolution, I had time to actually go draft those revisions, which I've also emailed to you, and I want to go over what those revisions are. They're very brief. In the section that deals with the complaints and investigations of sexual harassment complaints, the fourth paragraph down indicated in the draft that is in your packet the following. While the process may vary from case to case, investigations will be done in accordance with the following steps. Upon receipt of a complaint, Tricia Van Putty, Director of Personnel, and then there's a list of 6, I believe, steps or so. 7, thank you, Chris, that she will engage in. In reality, what happens with our sexual harassment complaints is that Tricia may investigate them, or we may have outside counsel, employment counsel investigate them, or your town attorney may investigate them. In fact, most of them actually are investigated in-house by me. So I've added the language, upon receipt of a complaint, Tricia Van Putty, Director of Personnel, or such other individual designated by the town supervisor to investigate a complaint of sexual harassment, and then it goes on to list those 7 tasks. So that's change 1. And then change 2.
Ken, let me just stop you there. Does it really make sense, not with any suggestion that there's an issue, but we normally try not to name people in a position? We would normally, I think, just say the Director of Personnel, so we don't have to worry about who the individual is in a given
Right, we
position.
could, I mean, the way the policy was drafted, the policy you have in your packet, did name Tricia in several spots, and I think your suggestion, Bill, is a good one, that we delete Tricia's name from the entire policy as well as these revisions that I've made, so that it would just read the Director of Personnel or such other individual designated by town supervisor to investigate a complaint of sexual harassment. But I think we want that flexibility. And so I would suggest that a further amendment be made in addition to the ones that I've already emailed to you that would delete Tricia's name from the policy itself. The second revision that I made is in paragraph 2, where I did in fact delete her name. It was in there twice actually as a typo. It originally identified it as a typo, but in reality, it's talking about the accumulation and preservation of documentation. So I simply replaced Tricia Van Putty, Director of Personnel, with the phrase, "The designated investigator will consider and implement appropriate document requests, review, et cetera."
The second time that appears there, yes.
Yes, in
Got it.
paragraph number 2. So with those revisions, I would ask Robin, I believe, who made the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
If she would accept those amendments to both the resolution and the policy?
So, sorry. Go back to the resolution. So I move that we adopt with revisions the revised sexual harassment policy in complete form.
Yep, and seconded by Jason if he would accept those.
Accept the amended.
Any further discussion? Thanks for that review and those revisions. Hearing nothing further, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Christine?
Yes, the next matter seeks to promote Tyler Richiel to the position of motor equipment operator in the Highway Department. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Why am I missing my next page here? Thank you. I was going to say, I know we've got one more item relating to, and I'll have Jason, if you would do that,
Yes,
please.
the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Sue Wentworth to provide services to the assessor's office on a temporary basis, starting October 17, 2023, until February 17, 2024, or until the return of the employee whose absence necessitates said agreement. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Discussion? Obviously, Sue is the ideal candidate for that position, having previously served and retired as assessor. So she'll jump right in and make sure the work we do is up to the usual standards, and that will help as we prepare for the townwide revaluation that is currently included in the budget for 2024. Any further discussion on that matter? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, it was mentioned in passing before, leaves, but we're into that time of year where I really want to focus on leaf collection at each one of these meetings, because it's really important. Bulk collection, containerized collection. We offer both options, and I understand that if you have large amounts of leaves, and most of us will very, very soon, it's hard to containerize them. But if you have smaller quantities, and we really want to encourage you to containerize your leaves for a lot of reasons. It keeps the neighborhood a little neater. We had windy days here this past week, keeps the leaves from blowing around. But it also allows us to pick up leaves faster. Containerized leaves are a lot quicker to pick up. You've seen what looks like a garbage truck, except it's green. That's our truck that we use to pick up containerized leaves. Remember, containerized doesn't mean paper bag, plastic bags. It means either refuse containers or other similar containers, or the big brown paper bags that you can get at local hardware stores or big box stores. Those are for containerizing. Now, if you do have those big quantities and you want to put them out bulk, hopefully you'll rake them or use maybe an electric blower. But whatever you do to get them out by the street, don't put them in the street. Please don't put your leaves in the street. Let me say it again. Don't put your leaves in the street. We get concerns about that, and they're well-founded. Leaves in the street cause safety issues for drivers, for cyclists. They can cause drainage issues. They can cause clogging in storm drains. And they too, blow around. And it's against the law. So please, don't put your leaves in the street. Put them on the tree lawn if you've got a sidewalk, that grassy area between the sidewalk and the street, or right at the very front edge of your lawn next to the street, not in the street. I can't say it enough. Please. We'll be starting next Monday. You'll see a map. You'll see two maps, actually, on the webpage. There's a link right on the main homepage for the town of Brighton. One map for bulk leaf collection, one map for containerized leaf collection. It covers for the next 2 days out, typically, so you can see when those different pickup options are going to be in your neighborhood. So it's busy time this time of year. Kudos to the highway workers. We really appreciate it. And of course, soon enough, they'll transition or be doing double duty, leaves and snow, but we're not there yet. That's all I have. Matters of the town attorney. I know we are going into executive session at the end to discuss the employment of particular people.
2 employment applications in executive session, yes. That's
Great.
all I have.
Thank you. Matters of the town clerk.
Nothing this evening.
Matters of the board.
Nothing further.
Then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular people?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wiltz?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. I do not expect that we'll be coming back out into open session following the executive session. So I will thank now our ASL interpreters tonight, Heather and Jim. Thank you both very much. And we'll see you back here for our town board meeting and our second set of budget hearings, October 25th, 2 weeks from tonight, 7 p.m. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy homecoming. Go Bruins!